Welcome back to Truth Unbound. I am Walter Swaim, your host, and I know it's been a while. Every once in a while, if you're a regular follower of Truth Unbound, due to my full-time work, I often will have to travel and take time away from the podcast, from the Truth Unbound ministry, but then we always come back, and that's what's happened this time. Also has given me some time to think about some of the great things that we are getting ready to do in 2026 with Truth Unbound. But there's going to be more about that later, okay? All right, so it's that time again. You can't run, you can't hide, it's Christmas. But it's a theme, there's a theme that comes up every year at this time. Did Christians invent Christmas? And if they did, is it biblical or pagan? I did one like this similar to this theme a few years ago here on the podcast, but wanted to add a few things this time around and from a little different angle. It's an important issue, really, because if this is just an invention by Christians about someone who didn't really exist, or making an emphasis out of Scripture that doesn't exist, then we need to get our facts straight so that we honor the Lord well and glorify Him. Well, the claims appear every year that Christmas is pagan, that early Christians didn't celebrate it at all, so we shouldn't today, that December 25th came from the Roman sun god Sol Invictus, or that Christians stole the holiday from Saturnalia, another Roman-based holiday festival, pagan festival. But today we are going to explore what early Christians believed, how Christmas developed, and whether believers should celebrate it today. All right, let's go ahead and do that right now. All right, then, let's get started. But just before we do, I just want to remind you that if Truth Unbound has increased and deepened your knowledge of the Lord and the Word and His truth, especially in relation to questions of the day, things that are happening today, and also about God and the Bible and Christianity itself, it has grown you and it has helped you to understand things more clearly. And also you want others to experience the same thing and hear the gospel through this podcast for the first time, then would you do this? Would you click on like, and then if you're watching this on YouTube, and then also if you would subscribe to follow it, invite others to do the same, and then share the podcasts with others. And I am extremely grateful that you do that. That's the reason why we're over 1,000 subscribers and continuing to grow. All right, let's get into the first question. Did the earliest Christians celebrate Christmas? Well, to be honest, when you look at history, you look at biblical history, the earliest Christians in the first centuries did not. They didn't celebrate Christmas. Their focus was the resurrection of Jesus, the return of Jesus, His second coming, and also surviving persecution. And most of all, again, the preaching of the gospel and the planting of churches. They believed in the incarnation of Christ, obviously, and the virgin birth of Christ, but they did not set aside a feast day for it. Jewish culture in the first place did not emphasize birthdays. Another reason is persecution limited gatherings like that. And also Scripture does not command that we celebrate Jesus' birth. So here's another question. When did Christians begin celebrating Jesus' birth? Well, by the end of the 100s AD, Christians discussed the date of Jesus' conception and birth, but didn't celebrate it, so to say. By the early 200s, Christians developed a theological calculation. They tried to figure out when He was born. So if Jesus was conceived on March 25th, the date some believed the world was created, then 9 months later, December 25th, okay? After March 25th, He was born. This origin, though, is Christian, not pagan. And by AD 336, the first official Christmas celebration begins to appear. By the 300s to 400s, Christmas spread across the Christian world. So then the next question, why did Christmas become important? You see, there were heresies, false teachings like Arianism, which denied the divinity of Christ, that he was God, and Gnosticism, that denied his humanity. These issues forced the church to clarify the doctrine of his incarnation. So Christmas became a powerful proclamation to fight dangerous false teachings about the divinity and humanity of Christ, and it did so by clearly establishing that God became man, the Word became flesh, Emmanuel, God with us, 100% God, yet 100% human. As persecution began to fade, the church formed a liturgical calendar that included Easter and Pentecost, some Epiphany, and then, of course, Christmas. So did Christianity, though, take pagan claims or festivals like Saturnalia or Sol Invictus and turn it into Christmas or integrate it into Christmas? You see, Saturnalia was celebrated December 17th through the 23rd. It involved rowdiness and partying and immorality, but nothing at all representing the celebration of Christ's birth. Christmas trees were not pagan either. They came from Christian Germany in the 1500s because it symbolized the paradise tree in Christian plays. So there just simply isn't any evidence. There are some that make it up or try to connect dots that aren't there, but there's no evidence that shows Christians adopting or adapting or integrating pagan rituals into a thing called Christmas. So one of those religious festivals, if you will, or pagan religious festivals, was Sol Invictus. Okay? Did they take it from that then? Many claim that Christians copied Sol Invictus, which was the birthday of the unconquered sun, and it was formalized under Roman Emperor Aurelian in the 3rd century to celebrate the sun and imperial authority. But we have to remember, when we look at the facts, Christmas didn't come from it. Christians used December 25th before Sol Invictus existed on that date. Also, Sol Invictus was set to December 25th in AD 274, long after Christians used it. Early Christians avoided pagan festivals. They wanted to be separate in their lifestyle from that. And some historians argue that Sol Invictus was created actually to compete with Christians. Okay? So the timeline is enough to disprove this claim. So, in the end, did Christians invent Christmas? Well, in one sense, yeah, kinda. The church chose a date to celebrate the incarnation of Jesus. Okay? But in a deeper sense, no, it didn't. Not in the way the claims are being made. The event reflects the true event that God gave us, the birth of his Son from the Virgin Mary, and Christmas simply proclaims biblical truth, that God became man. So does Christmas even matter today? Really? Well, yes, it does, because just as was needed to be emphasized in the first centuries, it declares his incarnation, that God became man, of God entering our world and the hope of salvation in and through him alone, if you'll believe in him alone. Scripture doesn't mandate we celebrate it, but it does not say we shouldn't. In fact, Romans 14 teaches us that celebrating special days it's a matter of Christian freedom. You can do it if you want, you don't have to do it. But celebrating Christ's birth is a rich opportunity to proclaim the gospel. Still, today, it is still the greatest time that those who do not know the gospel are at least open to it, worldwide. So take full advantage of the moment and the freedom Scripture gives us to celebrate it by worshiping Jesus first, sharing the gospel with others through the message of Christmas, and spend that time with family and friends and your church family and exchange gifts. Enjoy it to the fullest without any worry of it being pagan or pagan related, because it isn't. Hey, thanks again for joining me. Please take a moment again to like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone, maybe even someone who's curious about the origins of Christmas. Remember that the truth is always stronger than myth, and Christmas is simply about Christ. Hey, keep following Jesus Christ, because when you do, you'll always follow the truth.